So this is my rhododendron that I know to be rhododendron, and that's the beautiful flower. But it is had a lot of dieback this year, but it's also had a lot of growth. It may be very much summer where you're at, but for me it is very much still spring, which means we must continue on with the hashtag Spring Outdoor Projects 2025. First up, the strawberries. These are setting some really nice fruit. I am really glad that I did some fluffing of the soil. See, this one I didn't really touch, and these are a lot smaller, which may or may not have anything to do with it, but yeah, no. But the project for today, which is a fast one, which we love, is getting some straw under here so that the fruit, which inevitably touch the soil, doesn't just rot away or get eaten up by the critters because it's on the soil surface. So we're gonna get some mulch in there. This will also help to reduce water loss when the summer heat comes inevitably. Now these in particular are June bearing, but they might fruit in September. Now that that's done, we get to the real meat and potatoes of the work. Now I purchased 2 of these. I thought they were smaller. In my head they were smaller. They're meant to replace the pallets because they're falling apart. The soil is like pushing them apart and they're just rotting. So when I measured, I did the outer perimeter measurement, and this is more of on like angled bedding, not like a straight line. I didn't measure on the inside, so I thought 12 feet, which would have been perfect for the outside, isn't quite the same for the inside. So I can only fit one of those beds here, which in hindsight, 2020 is perfect because I was going to keep one of the pallets over there and keep that 4x4 footprint because I already have the trellis here and the winter squash do well here. So I was going to keep that. So if I did have had the 2 beds, then I would have been abutted to that and there would have been no space to work on at least the one side over here. But now that I only have one to fit in here, then I'll get my foot space in between to give me access to those beds better. Now, of course, I was like, oh crap, where am I going to put that other bed that's gigantic? I was having an issue in this space because it's a hill here and there's runoff generally. And if you can't tell, that's like wood chips that I used to have, like in a nice mound or making like a rectangle, but now it's slowly been washing down. So I'm hoping is to use the bed to contain more soil. I'm not going to fill this very much because there's some established plants in here. I mean, it's not really that big a deal. If I could, this is like a feverfew, which I could just dig up, but I kind of don't want to. I want to use the virgin soil and just do maybe mounds of different earth. So I kind of just want this to be a border and just leave the plants be to grow in it and less of a raised bed situation, but that might change in the future or when I'm setting this up. But that would also mean I'd have to like dig it in on this side because it's higher up there, lower here, so I have a lot of work to do either way. But main task is to disassemble this. I've already started. Yesterday I took apart all the wire that was holding it together, so I can at least just break it apart and then figure out what to do with all the soil. So ideally first I would square this up and get that situated, fill that up with more soil, seal off the obviously big gaps in between, so reclaim some of the other boards and help with that. And then pretty much get the soil into the middle Like there's an area there where the dog dug up giant hole. So, you know, fill up the holes. There's another hole over there that's not as important. But mound the soil so that I can fit the bed right over. So I'm not like removing all the soil and then putting them back in. I just need to consolidate it into the center and then put this bed over it and then spread it out. I'm hoping it's that easy, which of course it's not going to be. I do have overwintered kale, and I think it's kale, yeah. So those are going to the chickens. And yeah, that's it. All right, let me get started. Foolish human. So while I was starting to dig away the corner edges here and taking up all that cloth that I had put down ages ago, I realized I forgot something. Ideally, I'm going to be putting hardware cloth underneath the bed because voles is an issue. So yeah, that means I have to move all this dirt out of here after all. So being that there was quite a bit of space there, I might be able to get away with just moving it there and then putting it back. And I'll elevate it a bit so that I'm not bending down as far. And yeah, that's how I'm tackling that issue. So I didn't think I was going to get this done in one day, but I was thinking 2 days. But now it's definitely a 3-day plus project. All right, I'll be back once I have any more progress. All right, I made a little bit of progress here. I rebuilt this bed. I put a lot of soil into it. I'm going to be putting more soil, so I gotta take that up. And then yeah, that's pretty good for now. I have another one of those black, see it, this thing that I'm using as a trellis, so I'm gonna put that on the other side too. And then it's about lunchtime now, so I'm gonna take a break before we tackle this mound. My husband's chainsawing away over there, and whatchamacallit, yeah, I'll get back to you when I have the next phase done. All right, made a little bit more progress. I took some of that soil, moved it over there. Since we're on a hill here, instead of just being in the same spot I was before, I decided to level this with the ground virgin soil and then leave the soil I had already put in. It's a good 6 to 8 inches by the time you get to the low spot here, so that the bed is now level from the highest point. And that looks good to me. Now is time to get the hardware cloth under there. And obviously clean up some stuff. Oh, we got a lot to do still. I do have this little triangle here that I've opened up with the project. So I'm thinking, since I have a trellis right here, I'm thinking of something vining, if not more clematis. Then I do have some moonflower coming up, so I might put that there. We shall see. That's obviously later. All right, get back to this. I did have a few minutes too long of analysis paralysis with the hardware cloth here, because most of the stuff online is putting them up against wood, and then you can secure them with staples or something, similar nails, screws. But when you're dealing with metal beds, there's nothing to attach it to unless you're riveting into the metal, and I'm not about to do that. So at first I was just gonna line it on the bottom and outside, but they could just easily, you know, squeeze through what little spaces would eventually come through anyway. So finally asked my husband what his thoughts were, and he decided, I gave him the deciding factor, that inside is the best remedy. And then it was a case of wrangling the corners, bending them so that they would fit as snug as possible. And then yeah, so I gotta get the other side done. There's an overlap in the middle, and then that's that part. A little tidbit my husband added was to fold the jaggedy edges downward inside, so that if they do come up the side, they'll end up, you know, kind of trapped in the mesh, and these pokey things will help further deter them, hopefully. So I just sifted some topsoil after filling up with the soil I had pulled out. This is my compost, sifted. There's a lot of roly-polies, or roly-poly cousins, in this, which kind of worries me. This has been sitting in the rain for a bit, so... Oh, look, plastic. So it's really heavy. I'm not worrying about filling this all the way up to the tippy top. I'll work on that as the years go. That's some kind of pottery, I think. Let's leave that in there. Another piece of plastic, a hard one. Now the bag stuff does have a lot of wood pieces, so I guess the roly-polies can have fun with that. But yeah, this is very soggy soil from being out in the rain so much. Very heavy. So I'm just incorporating my compost with this, which I can do easier with my hands than with this rake. So obviously this will settle, and at some point fill it some more. But for now, this season, this is pretty good to go. I'll plant directly into this. I might add some rock dust minerals. There it is. There's plastic over here. Yeah, I think maybe just a little bit of minerals is all I would add to this. Because I already have it, not because I feel necessarily I need to. Well, I can't believe it, but I did it. Yeah, I'm pretty proud of how much I got accomplished today. I for sure thought it was going to take me a couple of days. Obviously, it's not super finished, but that bed is almost there. This one is covered for the dog, and that one I'm not touching just yet. But yeah, almost there. We can almost plant all the stuff. Oh, I'm tired. All right, it is, well, it's almost dinner time. Snack time. That's what it is. Snack time. Well, as always, thank you for watching. I will talk to you all again soon. So well, harvest more. Bye.